Hi everyone and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. I'm your host delonewolf and we are starting to see the first things appear on TQ that really shows that CCP is working hard to get us the Citadel expansion. I think the biggest one are the new skill books that are available here. So we have skills that are specific to the new structures that have been seeded, and you can start trading them now. I bought them and am trading them as we speak. I think, yeah, it's a good idea from CCP to allow us to do this. Maybe I'll quickly show them to you guys here. Skills, and then I think it was in, where are we? Structure management. And we've got structure defensive systems, structure electronic systems, structure engineering system, and structure missile system. So those are 4 new skills that you can buy and start training. Here they cost around 3 million. In Jita, I think they're 2.4, 2.5 if you buy them from an NPC. And if you didn't know yet, I would say if you plan to have a Citadel, definitely invest in those skills. They're not that hard to train. Let's see if I can find them. They're just a 2 times multiplier, so it's not that much time, especially for like up to level 3 to train these skills. So yeah, that's the first thing that I noticed that definitely changed, and that is in line with Citadel. The other one is right here, the fuel blocks. You may have spotted it on the ticker as well. They're no longer Galente fuel blocks, Caldari fuel blocks, etc. Now they're helium, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen fuel blocks. So depending on the isotope that's used in its production, they change the name of the fuel blocks to that. The reason is pretty obvious, of course. All of these fuel blocks will be usable in all of the Citadels, and then it doesn't make sense to have Empire specific fuel blocks anymore, and as a result it just depends on the source now. I don't think the plan is to allow the bosses to also use all the fuel blocks. In fact, I think that CCP is not planning to do any changes to bosses, and that they want those to be phased out, so that everything will go to the new structures with the new code, where CCP can iterate on that quite a bit more easily than they can do on some of the old code that still exists in EVE Online. But yeah, these are a few small changes that may not be very visible to everyone, that do indicate that we are closing in on the Citadel expansion. As I said, I'm eagerly awaiting any information on an actual release date. So let's get started. We are here for the market, of course, and we'll start with Plex at 240. And we can see that Plex is still dropping. In fact, in like the 5 to 10 minutes it took me to get ready to get started on EVE Talk, probably, let's see here, 60, 70 more Plexes have been seeded, and they're going towards 1149 now, so 1,149,000,000 ISK. If we look at the chart, what I find interesting is that here at the tail end, the margin between the 5-day moving average and the 20-day moving average is increasing. I think that's an indication that Plex is dropping decently quickly, has some momentum behind it, and it's pretty difficult to call a bottom. I think on the last EVE Talk I got one prediction who said it could go as low as 1 billion or even below that, which I think is a little bit too optimistic. But yeah, it does look like the decrease in price of Plex has some legs. I don't have any real answers for you as to the reason why. I know that Eve Prosper said that the skill trading would put pressure on the Plex price, probably because people don't need to keep that many accounts active and training in order to create alts. I think that does make sense, but I'm a little bit surprised by the real pushback here. Still, of course, 1.26 billion as a top here is a very high price for Plex historically, and so that would have been the right time to sell. I've said that personally, I prefer to have Plex as my investment for ISK. Of course, if you're looking at the last month or so, that would not have been the right choice. But I do expect us to bottom out at some point, and that Plex will make a serious comeback after everything has settled. Another thing that may have something to do with it is, of course, these tax changes that could signify a significant hit to trading in trade hubs, and as a result, what we may start to see is people dumping their stocks, trying to get the trades in now that they still can do them from the trade hubs without all the added taxes. I think that is a possibility, so keeping an eye on volumes is going to be pretty important as well, I think. So yeah, Plex's definitely down to 1149. There is some pressure on that. There is a lot of supply coming in at the moment. Next up, the pilot training certificate. That one is actually dropping off a cliff here. We can see a data point to the previous bottom of 1,080,000,000, something like that. That's actually pretty disconcerting. They are selling for 1150, 1149 though, so that's still in line with Plex, but the chart is much more worrying than the Plex chart. So it's going to be interesting to see what these are doing. I think this is great news for anyone that's looking to Plex their accounts to keep playing the game without paying actual money. Seeing the price drop like that is definitely good news. Another thing that may play a part in this is of course that the winter is ending here in the northern hemisphere, so Europe, the United States, things like that. It is usually a time where the general activity does decline a little bit, and the first people I think that do tend to drop out are the people that are working hard to keep their account plexed, while the people that actually buy Plex and play the game continuously have more invested, tend to have more invested in it, and thus I think that a bit of a drop in demand and stable or maybe even slightly increased supply for other reasons could also play a part in the decrease in price here. So I think that this is pretty interesting. I'm seeing three possibilities: the skill trading, just decreased activity in the game because winter is ending, and then the tax changes could also have increased the supply here. Overall, yeah, pressure on the Plex prices. Not good for people that have these as an investment, but pretty good for people that are looking to Plex their accounts, buy a few Plexes, or whatever else you want to do with it. Pilot's body rescope then, against the grain, increased in price quite substantially, almost up to 300 million, is falling back a little bit now, but if you look at the final increase here, that was very, very sharp, and so a pullback towards 260 million is not that strange. Still, the sellers, there's not that many of them, and they're trying to sell them for 290 million. So yeah, this is definitely unexpected, where we see the, I would say, base item of the Plex decrease in price. We see another item that is tied to real money transactions actually increase in price in the last few weeks. Next up here, we've got the skill injector. Still not a very good chart to see what's actually happening, so we'll stick to the prices. Skill extractors are selling for 264 million. The buyers are at 257. Actually don't think that moved very much, but the volumes are still absolutely huge. All of this, yeah, a full front page of extractors in the last 24 hours, and we're talking 200 of them that are being sold at the same time. These could be packages, of course, maybe like Aurum packages translate to roughly 200 skill extractors, people dumping all of that on the market. If they decide that they're getting a better price for this then through Plex, then of course this is also going to put some pressure on Plex price. It's pretty damn interesting. Here are the skill injectors then selling for 615 million, buyers 605. I'd say that this is still decently affordable for potentially 500,000 skill points, and I'm surprised that this is managing to stay decently low within a decent price range, I would say, and that the supply seems to be going strong. Again, a full front page here, they're being dumped in their 20s on the market here. This means that this should still be decently affordable even for newer players that want to skill up very quickly into a specific build or ship or something like that. That could be very useful for them this way. This is something that's manageable. A Plex of 1.2 billion is much less manageable as a goal to attain. So alright, interesting to see skill injectors. They could of course be under pressure for the very same reasons that Plex are under pressure. So we'll definitely keep a close eye on that. Next up, let's take a look at some minerals. 925. Let's see what these are doing. Tritanium pretty much flat at the 6.2 price mark. You can see that it moved just a point of a percentage, tiny little movement against last week, so that's really negligible. They're coming in at 622. A lot of them are selling at 623 as well. This is pretty interesting though. Look at that. Someone is dumping a lot of their tritanium at the current price point because I think all of these sellers are bound to come from a single source. And for the buyers though, we do have 1.2 billion units being bought here. Very recent order at 610. So I think, yeah, the trade range around 610, 620, let's say between 6 and 620 is definitely in effect here at the moment. And this is looking okay for having a more stable titanium market at the moment. You've got people that are actually selling quite a bit of it, but you also still have the big buyers coming in now and then to keep the price stable. It's looking good for that. Next up here we've got pyrite. After the momentary dip to 1080, it's looking like pyrite might start to find its trade range as well. If you look at the end part of the chart, and if you ignore the dip here, just trading above 11.10 ISK at the moment. Let's take a quick look here. 11.14 for the sellers, 10.93 for the buyers, and the sellers, not that many new orders, so there's really no reason to think that this is going to crash anytime soon by huge oversupply, but there are still some people bringing 380 million and 56 million, and on the buyer side, well, you have an older order of 200 million. Here we've got a recent one of 194 million, so this feels decently balanced, and it's looking good on the chart as well to have some more stable mineral prices, which is interesting. I guess that people are indeed, just like me, starting to be fully ready for the Citadel changes. If they've been following up on that, then they've got the minerals ready. They know PI is a big deal, much bigger than the actual minerals when it comes to the structures. And so as a result, people are getting prepared and the markets apparently are settling down. Is the actual launch going to cause some more volatility all of a sudden? It's still possible, but I guess for the people within the market in the know, things are slowly settling down here. Next up, we've got Mexalon again. It has known a very small and slow and steady drop to below 60 ISK, but after it broke that, we went back up to, let's say, around 61, and this is obviously very stable in the 60 to 62 ISK trade range. So the sellers are at 61.26, the buyers are at 59.53. Probably a little bit of action on both sides, which again is pretty good, I think, for... Oh, and I should really get rid of this so that we stick within... What the hell? Oh, no, I don't. All right, so that we stick within the system for a moment there, because I saw Caldari Business Tribunal. I thought we were in another system, but it's not. So, okay. Yeah, I think the fact that the price is on the chart at around 61 means that there's people that are buying them straight off the market. There's people that are selling to sell orders to buy orders as well. So this is looking pretty good volume wise. Not that much new stuff. 67 million units here on the buy order side, 44, another 6 million, a few other buy orders that are going a bit lower than that. So this is looking all right as well for Mexalon to stay in this trade range at the moment. More balanced price for Isaac Minerals, and honestly I think these are pretty good prices except for Isogen. Isogen is obviously at a 6-month low here, dipping below 100 ISK here, trying to get back but just not succeeding. So people are trying to sell it for 101 ISK, almost 102. The buyers though 95.58, but it is finally stabilizing after a serious decline over the last 4 or 5 months or so. So Isogen, yeah, the problem is of course that it is hovering on the chart just below that 100 ISK, which is pretty important. But we also see that there's not a lot of new supply coming in, so people are very hesitant to actually sell their Isogen below 100 ISK. As long as they can maintain that, I think demand is going to keep pushing up towards that 100 ISK border. And then of course, if someone decides, okay, I actually do want to sell a little bit more, we're gonna see a dip. But let's say a trade range of 95 to 100, very close to 100 as the upper edge here. I think it is possible that Isogen could stay stable a little bit as well, but I think this one is primed to actually fall off a cliff if the sellers decide okay, they need to get rid of their Isogen even if it is below 100 ISK. Then there is a serious danger for another pullback. So that's my read on that. In general though, ASIC minerals seem to be stabilizing nicely. Next up here we've got Isogen. Again, also you can see the decrease in volatility from the tops definitely, and now here the bottoms are also going towards a consensus price of 470. Unfortunately, just like with Isogen, these are very low prices historically. Noxium at 470 is definitely quite low. Buyers at 459, sellers at 469. You can still see, well, almost an entire front page of new orders. The size is below 10 million. The buyers though are just in the 100,000s. So yeah, Noxium stabilizing at 470, but that is of course a very low price for Noxium. Let's take a look at some of the NASDAQ ones then. Here we've got Zydrine. It increased in price very significantly in the last 2 months, so it is normal that it's pulling back now. And let's see what it's selling at. 12.28 pretty much for the sellers, 11.50 for the buyers. The margin is not that high. People are just bringing it in here at the moment, of almost a full front page of new Zydrine being brought in, 2 million, 6 million, 4 million. That is of course, they saw the opportunity to sell above 1300, something like that, and people just decided that was a good opportunity considering where we come from below 1000, and as a result now we're pulling back a little bit. So let's keep in mind 12.28 for Zydrine. Let's see what Megasite is doing. 11.95. So Megasite is dropping much faster than Zydrine again, and is below Zydrine once again. And this is of course a very similar pattern. People held off of dumping their stocks of these NASDAQ minerals for a little bit, managed to increase the price from 1000 to 1350. People saw this opportunity now, pulled the trigger, and of course new orders are, well, more than a front page. I would say people are dumping 1.6 million, 4.2 million, which is an equivalent price of like 4 billion in Megasite. Not that bad. 1.6 million here again, 900,000 here again, close to a million. So definitely the supply is coming back, putting pressure on the price after the increase here. I'm a bit surprised by the volatility in these NASDAQ minerals. It looks to me like maybe a NASDAQ cartel may be working this market, trying to increase their revenue from these minerals by holding off and then dumping after the price increase. But there may be some medium-term trade opportunities in this. If you see this continuously drop back off towards 1000, then of course you might want to pick some up for the next increase in price. If this becomes a pattern, obviously we'll try to spot it. And then I don't think I touched on it last week, but let's take a look at Morphyte as well. Although it is down on the for 6 months from 12,600 ISK to, let's see, the bottom at 10,200. So that is a decent drop, but it's always trying to pull back here. Very jaggedy, I would say, chart here, and we actually went up from 10.2 to they are currently selling for 10.8 thousand ISK at the moment, and above 10,000 for the buyers still. So while it's been a rough ride for all the NASDAQ minerals, definitely an increase in price, Morphyte has tried to stay more stable, has tried to hold on quite a bit better than the other ones. So 11.2 thousand was a price point that it tried to defend very hard. Then in February it did drop towards 10.2. It's now trying to fight back. But the NASDAQ supply pressure is on for Morphyte as well. It is showing, and as a result now we are seeing a very low chart for the last 6 months, but it is trying to fight back. So that's my read on the Morphyte market. One thing to note though, a full front page of new orders. There is definitely some dumping happening now that people saw a bottom at 10.2 and are selling at 10.8 at the moment. So keep that in mind. Some pressure on Morphyte from the supply as well, just like the other NASDAQ minerals really. So that's it for the mineral market. Let's take a look at some Tech One chips. 1910. I'll start by honoring a request here very quickly. I think someone asked me to check it out for the last 2 weeks or so. Let's take a look at the Hurricane. Oh, it's actually a battle cruiser. God damn it, it's not a cruiser. Standard cruiser, Minmatar, Hurricane. And I think it's this buyout here that they wanted to me to cover, so I'll quickly honor that request right here. We could see that the Hurricane was trading decently stably at around the 56 million price point on average right here, but it almost dropped to 54 million, and then we do have two really big volume days pushing the price up to 62 million. What is the supply looking like though? That looks pretty damn good. It was the Hurricane, right? Yeah, someone requested the Hurricane, and now it is actually back, already back down in the normal trade range of 56 million. So I would say that this is not completely out of line with all of the other Tech 1 ships. Sure, there was a pretty big buyout here, but the response from the industrial people has been decently swift as well. Hurricanes are still available on the market, and thus that price spike has been countered very quickly and efficiently right here in the Hurricane. Let's take a look at the classic ones. Here is the Armageddon at a 6-month high, trading at a 214 million range. We saw that the volumes are decent, but of sell orders are decent, but the number of orders are very small. So it's just a few people that are producing Armageddons and are presumably making some money off of these hulls, but it is pretty expensive to make, and as a result it's trading at a very high price point at the moment. I also think that battleships are under pressure. Maybe if the new web that is specific for battleships and capital ships becomes part of the meta, we could see some more activity in the battleship market, but at the moment I just don't think they're used that much. Next up we've got the Caracal, obviously trading at a decently high range of 11.8 million. I would prefer to see it around 11.5 on average, but for the last 6 months 11.8, you could almost see that as the average, and the availability is not that high though. So it's pretty obvious that this volume spike right here and the high volume in the weeks before that has caused an increase in price for the Caracals, and the industrialists just haven't been able to keep up. So I would say that this is looking like there is more demand than supply for the Caracal, and that's why we're almost selling at 12 million at the moment. Buyers are at 11.3. If someone decides to come in with a lot of Caracals all of a sudden, then this is of course going to decrease the price a little bit, but you can see pretty high volumes here and there. A lot of days that actually have more than 400 Caracals being sold. If all of that is, or most of that is from just straight up buyers that do want to use Caracals, I know that the consortium is using them for their high fleets for instance, then it could just be straight up high demand and the supply not being able to keep up that is causing the Caracal to trade at this high range, despite the fact that there are some number of Caracals still available here. Next up, the Dominic's chart. Yeah, again, pretty high spike, but going to 210 million after dropping to 195. Not entirely unexpected, but volumes, well, a little bit higher than average during the spike here, so maybe that's what happened. So availability is still quite okay, and understandably so. A lot of them are in the last 2 days because they're seeing the Dominic's trade higher. So 211 million for the sellers, 203 for the buyers, which is here on the chart. That is possibly significant, which to me, surprisingly enough, would indicate that there is high demand for Dominic's, as people are willing to pay up for a Dominic's more than 200 million, and as a result we're trading in that range at the moment. Very interesting that the Dominic's is actually working on another price range of probably close to 205 million rather than 200, where it's been trading around for the last 6 months. Let's take a look at the Drake here then. This was interesting. So early February we did get a price spike that caused an over response by industry, where we actually broke 53 million, which is definitely below the averages, a new bottom that was shown, but the response has been quite swift as well. People bought the Drakes en masse because they could buy them below 53 million. So the price went back up to 57 million, and now we're finally working our way back down from that. You can also see with the increase in price that we do have increased volumes here, and as a result there is decent availability. almost a full front page of new orders, 47 right here. The Drake is coming back, but yeah, 54, 55 million is a normal trade range, and so we just have to pull back a few more million, which I think is definitely possible with the amount of supply we're seeing here, and then the Drake will have stabilized again. Keep in mind again, a bottom of 53 and a top of 57 million is less than 10%, so this is not as violent as it looks, and the availability of the Drakes I think is definitely more than decent at the moment to ensure somewhat stable prices in the foreseeable future. Next up here we get the Mauler that was trading very stably below 12 million for a while, but another price spike here caused it to go above that. At the very tail end though, what is visible is the 5-day moving average crossing the 20-day moving average, so I think the pressure is on, and it definitely is here. Although, yeah, well, there's 5-6 orders that are pretty recent, each of them with like 20 of them, so another 60 being brought to the market. Yeah, there is some pressure on the Maulers to come back into its normal trade range. It just takes a while because there are some volume spikes that are clearly visible here that have caused the increase in price here. Well, that is really weird to me though, increase in price just before complete lack of volumes right here. I do think that the availability of Maulers was completely gone though, so that gap has been plugged by now though, some Maulers coming to the market because of the higher prices. Next up here we get the Myrmidon, very similar to the Drake on this one. Again, a price spike up to 57 million, a clear over response in supply all of a sudden, breaking 52 million to a 6-month low, and now of course people decided to buy them, so here we have decent volumes and an increase in price, a price spike up to 62 million for the Myrmidon, selling 53 for the buyers though, pretty big margin. I think that this will not be long because there are quite a few Myrmidons on the market yet. People can probably bring these very quickly to the market to take advantage of these prices, and I think by next week we'll see a pullback in the price that's quite significant. Next up here we've got the Oracle, had a spike last week, dropping back down, so you can see that the industrial response is there, it's just that they can't supply everything all the time. Whoops, sorry. I think that's what's happening in Tech One market at the moment. So Oracle's trading, selling for 86 million, buyers at 77 million, and 86 million is right around its normal trade range of 85 million right here. So this is looking all right for the Oracle, honestly. Next up here we get the Raven. Again, we do see a decrease in volatility and the price is trying to find trade range, probably just around 194. Let's see where the sellers are at, 197, and the buyers 187. So a trade range indeed, 192, 194, something like that. The decrease in stability is pretty nice. The availability on the market is decent as well. So yeah, looking good for the Raven, honestly, to stay stable in the foreseeable future. Here is the Stabber, very interesting one, I think, because of the decrease in volatility that is clearly shown here in the first 3 months or so. You had a price spike up to 13.5 million, then 13 million, then just above 12 million, and now we have this slow and steady decline towards, well, its normal trade range of 10.5 to 11 million. We dipped just below that, but I think we'll be back now. 10.5 for the sellers, 10 million for the buyers. There is just a bit more availability than demand at the moment. Stabber may just not be that popular, but if you want some cheap ones, this is probably the time to make your move. Next up here we've got Tornado, again a price spike 1 or 2 weeks ago up to 82 million. The response from the market seeing that opportunity has been quite swift, and they're still bringing them to the market, selling for 74 million, buyers at 71.5 million. And you can see here normal trade range probably 74, 75 million, something like that. Sellers are at 74, so that looks quite okay. It is probably, the supply is probably going to stop at this point to be that overwhelming for the Tornadoes. Otherwise we would completely overshoot these and maybe break 70 million. That would be very dangerous and telling, but it's just not in the cards. I think people know when to stop bringing these to the market, and as a result there is some volatility, but it is always being squashed quite quickly and effectively. Typhoon next, stabilizing at 185 million, so there's not much to tell here. 187 for the sellers, 180 for the buyers, very small margin. Half a front page of new Typhoons coming in, still 28 of them, so it's looking like the Typhoon knows not that much demand. Yeah, it's another battleship, there's just not that much action in the battleship market at the moment. Next up here we've got the Vexor, again a lovely price spike to 14 million, sure, but the response was immediate and maybe even a bit more than expected or needed, because we slightly broke 11.5 million, and I would say the normal trade range is closer to 12 million here. So we're gonna meet right there, exactly 12 million for the sellers, 11.4 for the buyers. Vexor after one spike, stabilizing quite nicely right back in its trade range, and that is of course because of the availability. You can see the amount of Vexors that are available on the market is high enough to quickly stabilize this. So in general, honestly, my read of the Tech 1 market is that there is decent supply, it's just not enough to cover all the demand all the time. And so sometimes you have some individual ships that are emptying out of sell orders where there's just not enough of them available, and then some people may just jump on the opportunity to try and increase that price substantially. When that happens, the response from the industry is very swift. You know, people do see those opportunities and bring them to the market, but we're very rarely in the situation, although it happens once in a while, that the supply is that big that we actually break the averages on the downtrend. That's very rare. So yeah, we're right in the middle of it, and honestly I think that this makes for a pretty healthy market. There are enough ships that are available enough so they are stable over the months, especially the smaller you go, the more often you see that. And then you have bigger ships where sometimes they empty out, people see the opportunity to increase the price quite significantly, let's say in the Myrmidon for a battle cruiser, and then the industrialists get a chance to get a better margin on some bigger ships. They bring that in, and yeah, you have those price spikes with the corresponding increase in supply that is happening here and there. So overall, this is looking pretty decent for the Tech 1 market at the moment. Next up, Tech 2 market, 31.45. Let's take a look at that. Unfortunately, I'm not expecting too many good buy opportunities just yet because of that increased volatility here all of a sudden. Half January, that was basically across the entire Tech 2 market that I check. The Basilisk though is settling at 190 million, buyers are at 184. The trigger 180, 185 is definitely possible. So Basilisk buy orders, maybe if you're looking for something where you absolutely want to spend some ISK on a Tech 2 ship to probably have a good trade later on, the Basilisk could be close to that. Next up here we've got the Cerberus, unfortunately trading at 205 million. Obviously that's too high, so I would say no, you can't invest in the Cerberus at the moment if you want a chance at 10-15% profit off of your trade. The Guardian here, again, also trading very high at the moment, dropping back to 150. But yeah, you should be able to buy them close to 130 million, and the buyers are at 146. So it's pretty obvious that the Guardian has a way to go back down if you want the historical bottom. It is possible that for some reason the Guardian is going to start trading at this higher range, but I would not invest in this at the moment. Next up, we've got the Hound. That is a nice pullback, honestly. Buyers, let's say close to 17 million, 18.1, maybe still just a little bit too early, but the Hound volatility is over. The sell opportunities at 23, 27 and 25 million when you could have bought them for 17 million. Crazy times, but we are apparently going back down substantially. It is time to keep another eye on the Hound to drop towards 17 million on the buy orders, and that is obviously a good price to invest in some covered up ships. Here is the Ishtar then, stabilizing at 180 million. I would not invest in that personally unless you want to fly an Ishtar. Then of course you could buy at this price, but as an investment, nope. I would like to see it closer to, let's say, 160 on the buyers before I would do that. Yeah, 178 for the buyers, just I would make a move on that personally. Next up here we've got the Manticore, also try to go back down, but at 23 million hesitation and going back up. So again, if you can buy them at 21 million, 22 for the buyers, yeah, again too early, but it is of course starting to come back towards a bottom price. So keep an eye on the covered up ships. A few more weeks and we may see some real buy opportunities. Next up here we've got the Nemesis, also declining of course, heading towards 20 million on the chart. The buyers are at 20 million, so yes, that is too early again by quite a bit. I would prefer to trade below 18 million on the buyers before I would say, okay, you could consider an investment. Next up here we've got the Oneros. This is an awesome chart for traders. You could have bought at 140, 145, 145 right here. You could have sold at 175, 175, 175, and 180. All of this in over the last 6 months. That's quite a roller coaster that you can see right here. And now we're going back down again substantially. If you can buy below 145, 147, we're getting there very quickly. So this is honestly an awesome chart for traders. This is where you make and lose a lot of money, and keep an eye on this one honestly, because it's dropping very quickly with very few buy orders here. Next up we've got the Purifier, also dropping but not anywhere close to its bottom just yet. Buyers at 18 million. Okay, actually buyers at 18 million is surprising. Honestly, it is surprising. If you go below that, you're probably having a good deal. Close to 17 million would obviously be perfect, but that is interesting. So yeah, these stealth bombers, keep an eye on those in the next few weeks, I would say. Next up here we get Scimitar, also coming off from a very high point of 175. What are the buyers at though? 142, that's still too high. I'd prefer close to 130 honestly. Look at that bottom, 120 and then 175 million. That's 40% profit, very easy. Awesome stuff here for traders. Of course, only 2 spikes over 6 months, nowhere near as good as the Oneros chart, but still the opportunities are there. And then next up the Vengeance here, that's just stabilizing at 22.5 million. That's too high. There's nothing really to be seen here as a trade opportunity. I also don't like the fact that we only have 1 real spike right here in the Vengeance. So yeah, I wouldn't do anything there. So that's the Tech 2 market. Still just a little bit too early to find trade opportunities, but some ships are starting to come to get there. So keep a close eye on some of them. Next up, Tech 3 markets, 37. Let's see what we can spot here. Very interesting. We know that the Tengu dropped by more than 5%. So let's get started. Here is the Confessor. Obviously some pressure on the price here as well. Availability quite high. About half a front page, well, a bit less than that of new Confessors coming in. So Confessor, high availability, pressure on the price. Let's keep that in mind. I would have expected a stability just above 55 million, but no, we went lower than that. Next up the Hecate, also pressure on the price, dropping back down here, 52 million for the sellers. Not that many new sell orders though. Volume wise, there are still some available at 54, so I'm not too worried. Buyers though are not here just yet, so that's interesting. Next up we've got the Jackdaw, also going down in price and availability. A full front page of new Jackdaws of course, so I think this one was the one where I was worried about availability because there were not that many sell orders. That has been fixed by all the new sellers coming in the last 24 hours. Pressure is on the price here, so okay, interesting. Next up we've got the Zvipul, also some pressure but a slow descent towards 52 million as well. Availability, yeah, that's looking really great. So this is interesting, somewhat unexpected. I would have thought that these tactical destroyers would stabilize at around 55 million, but apparently nope, they're dropping towards 50 million. Availability is high across all of them at the moment. It could be rumors of Tech 3 rebalancing. I think that's definitely a possibility. If any ship class is going to get hit by the nerf bat, it's going to be the tactical destroyers next, because those are considered some of the most versatile and powerful ships at the moment. And of course we know that CCP tends to be decently heavy-handed in their nerfs, and so what could be happening as well, if I look at the Tengu numbers on some speculation here, people could expect a Tech 3 nerf just across the board again, and that would not be good for the cruisers, of course. So let's take a look at those. Here is the Legion. Try to spike up to 190, but is already going back down. Sellers are below 180 million. Availability, I would say, not super high, but we do get to browse through some of them. Recent orders, maybe another 20 or so Legions coming in, so it's decent, but no sign that it's going anywhere at the moment. Stable price, I would say. Next up here we've got the Loki, very similar chart as well. Availability, new sell orders, have a front page, a little bit more than on the Legion, so maybe a bit more pressure to be seen here for the Loki, going as low as 176 as well, but again, looking like it could stabilize around this price range. Next up we've got the Proteus, dropping down to 170. Interesting. Is it because of supply? Yes, it is. Look at that, 10-8 the final orders, a full front page of new Protei coming in here, 40 of them as well 2 days ago. Oversupplying the Proteus, causing a decrease in price that's quite substantial, and availability of the Proteus, you can see there's quite a vast number of trade ranges. So this could spell some decrease in price here. And then we've got the Tengu, of course, also dropping substantially in a second wave right here. In fact, a third wave, drop here, drop here, drop here, and availability quite high. Look at that, quite big numbers as well. Full front page of new Tengus coming in, including 16 at 173. Yeah, it could be the threat of a nerf of a Tech 3 rebalance, I think, could be playing its part here. But it is also showing that there is big supply at the moment, plenty of supply at the moment. I would say all of them are available across the board. Cluster shutdown alert initiated, so that's 1 hour left. Luckily I started early today. Interesting new little feature here. CCP can actually give cluster-wide messages through the notification feed. That's pretty cool. I think it'll go away on its own, but yeah, the Tech 3 markets, to recap that one, I think we are going to stabilize. A lot of them seem under pressure, which I think could be due to people expecting possibly a nerf to come in, but supply is back here. We used to have quite a bit of volatility a few months ago with just empty sell orders. That's not the case anymore. A lot of them are quite available at the moment. Interesting stuff that this has happened in the Tech 3 market. Seems to have ridden out its very rough patch of the last few months. And then finally, for the extra materials, I actually got a lot of requests. I'm going to honor 2 of them. Keep one thing in mind, I write all of them down, and so if I don't cover your request the next week, it's bound to happen in the week after that or the week after that. So if you have any requests, feel free to post those as well. But now we're going for advanced PI and the sister faction ships. Those were the first requests that I got. And let's see, extra materials, 4230. 4230. Let's get started. Advanced PI, of course, obviously someone that's interested in citadels will want to check that out. So I think it's manufacturer, materials, planetary materials, and the advanced ones. Okay, unexpected but interesting, so very good suggestion. Broadcast nodes jump up to 2.3 million here. Availability decently high, people are bringing them in, but yeah, broadcast nodes quite a bit more expensive. I've definitely bought most of mine below 2 million, so that's pretty interesting. Next up, integrity response drones, after a jump to 2.8 million, which I said at the time, this just seems too high for me. I don't think that this is sustainable. We did see a decline, but working on another price spike, so the hype may be in. Not that many available. 3 million for the integrity response drones. If you're producing this stuff, you're making bank at the moment. Just crazy numbers from PI, I think, but very interesting and right on the money with the suggestion here. Next up, we get the nano factories. These are trading at 1.2 million. So we are close to a 6-month high, close to 1.3 million. But of course, this is apparently not a very expensive one to make. And as a result, the volatility is not that high. Availability seems quite decent. But yeah, again, I do think I bought most of my nano factories close to 1 million to 1.1 million. So slight increase in price to be spotted there as well. Organic mortar applicators, very clear increase in spike. So this is obviously what I like here. The increase in price is of course the announcement of citadels and all the materials, but slow and steady in a not so expensive one. Here for some reason, high volatility all of a sudden, major volume increase right here and an increase in price. Could this be the dev block on the tax changes? I think it's a little too early for that. But maybe someone caught wind of it or something like that. But that's a really big volume spike. Let's see if it's the same with the integrity response drones. Yes. Broadcast nodes. Yes. Nano factory slightly, but not that visible. So obviously someone said, I'm gonna trigger this increase, bought 2-3 times the daily volumes, and up it goes. Could have been an announcement, but I don't think the timing is right. I would say the tax announcement is possible, but the timing doesn't seem right to me. So there we go, spike up for organic mortar applicators, already going back down a little bit. So keep in mind, I do think for, let's say, the integrity response drones selling at 3 million, that's not gonna last. This is again a bit of an over speculative bubble. That is going to deflate somewhat, but yes, demand is extremely high for these materials, understandably so, and as a result, a lot of them are going up here. Next up, recursive computer module, that one actually staying stable at 1.5 million, of course, trading very highly, but no major spike to be spotted there. Self-harmonizing power core though, that one obviously spiked up to 2.5 million. 2.4 now for the sellers. People are starting to bring them in decent numbers, but obviously 6-month high, and again a triggered volume spike right here that has caused an increase in price. Sterile conduits next. Okay, that one honestly was very high here. Look at that increase in price, and I probably said that this was speculation as well. Drop back down and now trading for around 1.5 million. Okay, I think that's actually probably the price where I bought a lot of them. Maybe I bought here, I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, 1.5, 1.6 million. I actually think that that's an okay price for sterile conduits. And then finally the wetware mainframe, surprising to me because it is an expensive one at 2.2 million. There is big volume change, but I'm not seeing the increase in price here all of a sudden. The wetware mainframe has actually been the trickiest one for me to get. The markets were empty of them quite often, a very expensive one. So it's interesting to see that this one has not increased in price all of a sudden, no volatility, in fact settling at 2.2 million for the wetware mainframe. So very interesting, some of them definitely spiking up quite drastically. Considering the volume spike here, I would say this could be partly due to speculation. Of course, a lot of people are preparing for the citadels, so there is very high demand. But awesome, someone must have spotted that increase in price right here in a lot of them with the big volume increase corresponding. So I would honestly, if you're hesitant to buy integrity response drones at the moment for 3 million, I would say you are right, wait a little bit, because this is, a lot of it is speculation, a lot of it is a second bubble that has been pumped up here, in my opinion. So there we go, a very good suggestion. And then the other one was the Sisters of Eve ships. So these have, let's see, they've got a frigate, obviously, faction, I think it's in pirates. Yep, we've got the Austero. Whoa, dropping way down, 6-month low, availability at 62 million. And that is, of course, probably due to project discovery, maybe, or for some reason there's high availability of these loyalty points. So all right, pretty interesting. 6-month low for the Austero, just basically dropped off a cliff from 76 to 62 million, and no end in sight for that one. Let's see what this one is doing. the Stratios. I'm really bad with names, that's why I have to go look for them. Sorry about that. Very similar story here, dropping off a cliff from 280 million, currently selling for 227 million. So if you want some of these, honestly, Stratios, awesome little cruiser, drone damage, covered ups capable, very good with newts in the high slots. This is something that is very affordable at the moment, not that high on skills, and very powerful in PvP. If you want to buy some of them, this could be the right time to do so. Again, at a 6-month low, dropping off a cliff here all of a sudden. And of course, they also have a battleship. So let's take a look at that one, which is the, nope, it's not called the Barges, it's called the Nestor. Oh, that is even more surprising. A steady decline from 1 billion to 700 million over the last 6 months. I guess for the Nestor, it was the last one to be launched. And so it was costing around 1 billion for a very long time. Just the increased availability may have just changed that up a little bit. But again, Nestor at a 6-month low, 700 million, still very expensive, but I would never have bought a Nestor at 1 billion. At 700 million, if I really want to fly one or own one, this is starting to be a reasonable price for a faction battleship. So there we go. Again, 2 really good suggestions. Noticing the price spikes in these advanced PI materials, very good. And then of course all of these Scissors of Eve faction ships at 6 months low. If you want to invest in some Asteros or some Stradioses for some PvP ships, then this is definitely the time to do so. Awesome suggestions, guys, keep those coming. I do write all of them down. But for now, that's it for this Eve talk. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.